Gladwell. Thank you both for being here this evening. A couple of housekeeping items before we begin. For our audience, there will be no intermission. Please exit and enter the room quietly. I'd ask you to limit applause and reaction as not to interfere with the audio for folks who are watching at home. The PC Party is hosting 3 candidates' forums during this leadership race, 1 in each county. At each debate, we will cover questions on the topics of leadership, healthcare, and education. The remaining 5 topics will only be covered here tonight and are important to all Islanders and the people of Queens County. Those topics are tourism, public safety, housing and social development, entrepreneurship, and youth. Tonight's debate will proceed as follows. Each candidate will have 60 seconds to answer the question, and then there will be 60 seconds for open debate. We will also have a couple of lightning round questions where candidates will have 30 seconds to respond. Those will not be open for debate. Each candidate will give a 2-minute opening and closing statement. We flipped a coin before beginning tonight, and Mark will begin with his 2-minute opening statement. Mark?
And good evening, everyone. It's great to be here. A big crowd, and I'd like to acknowledge people from our education system who are passionate about our schools. Thank you for joining us this evening. It feels right to hold our debate here at the Confederation Centre, a place that reminds us of the role Prince Edward Island played in building this country. My first home was just down the street on Queen Street. My first school was a few blocks away at St. Jean's Elementary, and I grew up as one of the East End kids of Charlottetown. This is home for me. And where you grow up stays with you. It shapes how you see responsibility, showing up, looking out for your neighbors, and trying to leave things better than when you found them. Those values guided my work in law, in business, and in the nonprofit sector, and those values are what bring me here tonight asking for your trust. I want to restore hope for Islanders and the belief that if you work hard and care about your community, you can build a good life here, and your children can too, and that's why this leadership race matters. For the past year, PEI has had an interim premier, and over that time, the sense of urgency simply wasn't there. Government rarely fails in one big moment. It slips slowly when decisions get delayed, pushed down the road, and responsibility isn't owned. People can feel that, and that's why they want change. Over the past 10 months, I've been out across our province listening to people, earning their trust, and laying out a clear direction for what comes next. And over that time, something encouraging has happened. A record number of Islanders have stepped up and joined our PC party, not because they were told to, but because, like me, they believe it's time for our party to belong to our people again. That's the choice in front of us. I believe deeply in our province, and I'm ready to lead with clarity, conviction, accountability, and urgency. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. Rob?
Good evening, and thank you for being here tonight, everyone. It's good to be back here in Charlottetown. I want to begin by recognizing our caucus members who are here tonight representing communities from across Prince Edward Island. Prince Edward Island is at a defining moment. We are growing, we are changing, and the world around us feels less predictable than it did not that long ago. Islanders feel that. They feel it in their workplaces, they feel it in their communities, and in the expectations they have of the people they elect to lead. Moments like this put leadership to the test, in the decisions that have to be made, in the answers that have to be given, in the willingness to stand up, take responsibility, and be accountable for the outcome. And accountability means owning how you show up. At the last debate, my voice was occasionally raised. I spoke strongly. I did that because personal attacks were being directed at our caucus, our executive, our volunteers. Leadership isn't about tearing others down to lift yourself up. Standing up for your team is. I've had the honor of leading this team during a challenging time. I've seen what it takes to govern responsibly, to bring people together, and to stay focused when the pressure is real. Because leadership is never about one person. It's about the people you surround yourself with, the trust you build, and the way you treat those who do the work every day. In just a few weeks, the Legislative Assembly will return. The next leader of this party will need to be ready to govern immediately, ready to stand in the House, answer questions, and that person needs to be accountable inside the rail, not outside. That moment is coming quickly. Tonight is about the future of our party, the future of Prince Edward Island. This decision is about who's prepared to carry that responsibility forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Our first question tonight is on the topic of leadership, and we will begin with Rob. Prince Edward Island is changing quickly, from population growth in Charlottetown and Queens County to shifting economic and social needs across our rural communities. As Premier, what is your long-term plan to lead a province that is growing, diversifying, and facing new pressures? And how will you ensure that every Islander, regardless of where they live or how long they've lived here, sees themselves reflected in your decisions and your vision for the future of PEI?
Thank you, Robert. This is a very, very broad question. I could spend a long time answering it, but it gets to the heart of what government does every single day. My long-term plan is simple. Focus on fundamentals. We need to deliver the basics to put people at the center of every decision we make. We need to engage Islanders. We need to ensure every community has a voice in shaping our province's future. And this starts with a strong team of MLAs in their communities, day in and day out, and that's what we have. We need to foster the next generation. We need to prepare and mentor new leaders to take the reins of government and the party so that they can begin to shape the future of this province that they envision for themselves. PEI only succeeds when Islanders succeed, and we need to celebrate success across all of the industries and the diversity of strengths that we have as a province, and it's the job of the Premier to ensure that government works for everybody, not just a few.
Thank you, Rob. Mark?
It is a broad question, but to me, when Islanders see themselves in government and in decisions, that's the essence of leadership. When that happens, it's a win. My campaign has been about returning the party and government back to the people, to involve them more, to listen to people about their issues that really matter to them, and to act with focus, to act with urgency, to act now, to act in providing security in the cost of living issues that we face, or the electricity pressures that we face now, by tackling hard issues like land use, like Iraq, like access to health care. We need government that is more connected to our communities and less focused on offices in Charlottetown. It's just that simple. Government that's ready to make clear decisions in the open, to give people hope, to give our young people hope, so that they can stay here, so that they can find work here, so that they can build families here. That's the type of government that I'd like to lead.
Thank you, Mark.
If we want Islanders to see decisions reflected in the decisions governments make, we need to connect with Islanders. And I have to say, this has been an incredible process, connecting with party members right across Prince Edward Island. I have had hundreds of conversations, and I tell everyone I speak to, probably some of you in this room, that I learned something from the conversation. I've spoken with new Islanders. I've spoken with people who have been here for generations, and they all have one thing in common. They want this province to succeed, and this has been a wonderful process from learning from you, connecting with you, and you will see decisions of government reflect in what I've learned from you.
What I would say is that you learn about people and learn about what's on their minds and learn about what's really going on with them when you go out and meet with them and see them in their communities, meet their families, and that's what it takes. It takes going out, not sitting here, but getting out there and going across communities. I want to raise one other issue, though, that my friend raised. That has to do with the caucus. The caucus are elected by the people. The caucus are here because the people have put them here. The cabinet are appointed by government. I'm confident that whoever wins this race, the caucus will be there for the people. The cabinet will be there working for the people, whether it's Mr. Lance or whether it's me. He doesn't own the MLAs. The people do. Let's
Thank you, Mark.
that.
Thank you both. This next question will go first to Mark. Islanders want transparency from their government. As Premier, what practices would you adopt to make your decision-making open to Islanders?
Look, in my conversations, the lack of transparency in decisions, it's near the top of the list of things that are bothering people. I've spoken publicly about this a number of times. One of the things I will commit to is a monthly report, an in-person monthly report by the Premier of the province, standing in a room, taking questions openly, providing Islanders with a report card on how we're doing, the things that we're doing well, the things that we've not done well. That, to me, is essential. Secondly, there's just too many secrets in government. People have this sense that they're not hearing everything. That has to stop. We have created an industry in this province of freedom of access requests that's got to stop. I would favor more information rather than less information. We have to get beyond that. And finally, we have over 50 boards and agencies in this province. It's a jungle. It's a minefield. We need to get rid of some of those. We need to make decision-making more streamlined, more clear, so everyone knows who's responsible. Thank you.
Thank you. Rob?
Thank you, Robert. Transparency is very important to Islanders. It matters very much to me, and it begins with open, honest leadership and a leader with a transparent history. Party members know me. Islanders know me, and they know my background. It's wide open. Here's what I'll do to help Islanders understand what we're doing on their behalf. We'll provide post-cabinet updates so Islanders understand decisions that are being made and why. We'll hold regular town halls across the island, not just during campaigns like this. We'll have more online communication using all the tools available to let Islanders know what we're doing. We'll send regular island-wide updates that outline government programs, services, and spending. I'm an open book, and I want government to be an open book. I want Islanders to be engaged, trust in government, to trust in the process. So, ladies and gentlemen, I am an open book. Government will be an open book. You can trust that under my leadership.
Thank you, Rob. Open for debate.
Government must be an open book. Government must be transparent. Government must be clear. My friend keeps talking about his transparent history. I have a transparent history. He can ask me any question. He's never sat down and asked me, where have you been? What have you done? What have you built? How many people have you employed? What kind of businesses have you run? These things are all out there. These things are all in the open. So I heard this last week about a transparent history. I have had the good fortune of living and working in different countries, in different cities, with different businesses. I'm proud of what I've done. I'm proud of the people I've employed. I'm proud of the projects that have been built. And I stand here as a proud Islander, ready to take this job on.
Rob?
You know, one of the things that's really raised this issue of transparency, it's really been a real turning point, and Mark, I think you've taken advantage of this in certain ways, but you know, the 2017 report that was ordered by the previous Liberal government, by the now sitting Liberal leader of the Liberal Party, and was buried under that government, has really got people's backs up, and we've taken actions to make IRAC more transparent, and we will continue to do that in many different ways throughout government and not just through that particular instance that's raised so many people's anger.
Thank you. This next question will go first to Rob. Aside from a speech from the throne or the operating budget, what is the first piece of legislation you will introduce in the spring sitting of the legislature?
Well, that's an interesting question, Robert. Only one of us on this stage can actually introduce legislation in the spring sitting of the legislature because only one of us is inside the rail, and that's me. The first piece of legislation I'll introduce will be an act to introduce performance-based regulations for maritime electric. What does this mean? What does this mean? This means we'll change the way maritime electric is incentivized and compensated. Maritime Electric will have to deliver reliable electricity, quickly restore outages, and undertake real energy system planning, among other things. But Maritime Electric's returns will be based on performance. If they don't deliver, it'll impact their bottom line, and this will improve reliability, lower costs, keep energy dollars on PEI, encourage energy innovation, and in turn help build our clean tech industry right here in Prince Edward Island. Remember, Maritime Electric has the electricity, the government has the power, and we'll use it to deliver results for Islanders.
Thank you. Mark, same question to you.
My friend stands here and says that he's part of a team, and now it's about him. Governments introduce legislation, not individuals, not people, but governments. So my government, my team would introduce legislation about tax fairness. I've raised this throughout the campaign, the pressures that Islanders face and small business face having to do with the cost of living issues and rising costs. This is one of the most real and pressing issues that I've heard about as I've crisscrossed PEI. It involves rising food costs, rising electricity costs, rising fuel costs. So the legislation that I would propose would reduce taxes for low-income earners and raise the personal exemption for Islanders consistent with the federal level. That would put more money back in Islanders' pockets. I would remove excessive taxes, like a tax on tax that we faced on fuel, or get a graduated tax in place for used vehicles. I will raise the small business threshold, but the most important thing I'll do, and you've heard this already. Okay, I'll come back to you.
The things that Mark's just talked about are things that we've already done in government. We have raised the thresholds on our tax brackets. We have lowered the rate on the low end of the tax bracket. We've delivered real tax relief for Islanders. I make no apologies for the investments we've made in affordability for Prince Edward Island. We'll continue with those efforts. And Mark, you've talked a lot about tax cuts. I've heard you talk about toothpaste, going to Ottawa to get the HST off the toothpaste. Every little bit helps. I'm in favor of tax cuts. So are you, apparently. We're going to deliver affordability for Islanders every step of the way.
Mark?
The biggest and the most transformational tax cut that I proposed is the reduction in the HST from 15% to 14%. One other province in our region has done it, Nova Scotia, and they're proud of it. And we should do it too. We should be proud of that as well. My friend doesn't agree with that. He would not support that type of a tax cut. I don't know why. He should. We've costed it out. We know we can afford it. We know Islanders will use that money when it's put back in their pockets. So I think and I believe that we need to demonstrate to Islanders that government is going to stop spending money excessively. We're going to turn it around.
Thank you, Mark. For this question, you will each have 90 seconds to answer, and we will begin with Mark. The current forecast for the fiscal year 2025-26 is a deficit of $367 million, a $183 million increase from the operating budget that was tabled in April of 2025. As Premier, what concrete steps will you take to address the province's fiscal books in the year to come, and what measures will you take in regards to the provincial taxes and government services?
I take 3 steps, and I'd like to acknowledge that this is one of the biggest problems we face in our province. I'd like to acknowledge the hard work of our Minister of Finance and Acting Minister of Health, Jill Burridge. She's here this evening. A lot of this falls on her shoulders. I feel for her. The 3 things that I would look at are, go ahead. Number 1, our budget process. Why are our budgets so far off? Why are we missing the mark? For 2 years now, we've had a double deficit, double what was forecast. Somebody is not doing their job. It looks like an internal serious internal management problem. We've got to do better. I've put big budgets together. We start from the ground floor up. We look at every expense. We look at every revenue forecast. It's a rigorous process, and you leave that process saying, we're going to get this right. So something is wrong in our budget process. We had a budget last April. My friend was the Premier at that time. The budget is your signature move in government. And again, we missed it. We missed the forecast. It's doubled up. So that's number 1. Number 2, I'll immediately undertake an asset review and a review of government operations. Look at every asset. Do we need it? Do we need assets like CADC? Do we need golf courses? Look at our operation spending. We're spending $3.2 to $3.5 billion a year. Surely we can find savings in there.
Thank you, Mark. Rob?
I think Minister Burge would assure you that it's a very rigorous budget process, but I acknowledge that there is a deficit and we are in a difficult fiscal situation, but I'm not going to apologize for that. Our province and this country have met unprecedented challenges over the past 5 years: rising costs, extreme weather, global pandemic. Much of the deficit can be attributed to emergency payments and relief during very extraordinary times. Our government stepped up when needed. $70 million was spent to make sure Islanders could access health care services they needed this year, above and beyond. We spent $20 million, more than $20 million, it's approaching $30 million, on farmers who were severely hit by drought. We increased social assistance payments by $13 million as costs of living expenses were rising. We invested in our education workforce, given the significant needs, as we've heard here this evening, that we're seeing in classrooms. And importantly, 60% of our spending went to infrastructure and capital, investing in the future, supporting the next generation. So going forward, we are still going to protect what matters most: core services like healthcare, education, and affordability supports. But at the same time, we're going to spend responsibly. We'll be carefully managing the province's finances, but protect those essential services that Islanders rely on. And under my leadership, I'm prepared to limit program expansion, administrative growth, and discretionary spending. We're going to restrain spending rather than imposing deep spending cuts or $50 million tax cuts that we can't quite afford right at this moment. Responsibility isn't a shock therapy.
Thank you. Open for further comment.
Look, of course we want all these things. Of course we want all these investments. Of course we want new facilities, but we don't have the money. And this is becoming very, very dangerous. We've gone from, over 5 years, our budget, our deficit has climbed to $3.7 billion. $3.7 billion. The deficit this year is going to be close to $400 million. $400 million going in the hole. Last year, it was another $150 million. So over 2 years, it's $600 million. You can't run a province like this. You can't continue to go in the hole. Where does it stop? You could keep on spending money and money and money. We don't have it. So we have to get rigorous about this. We have to get disciplined about this. I've looked at other legislation in other provinces that would have put a cap on spending. We're going to have to find a way to put a cap on spending. I'm going to bring forward legislation that will do that, and we're going to have to live within our means.
Rob?
We will absolutely have to live within our means, but we're going to protect Islanders in difficult times. Mark talks about the last couple of years. Prior to that, this government was budgeting deficits and coming in with surpluses. It was good times. Revenues were extremely strong. We're now in the post-pandemic era. We're now in the Trump era of almost unlimited uncertainty and instability. And we're going to protect Islanders every way we need to. But I can tell you, Mark said we don't have the money. You keep talking about not having the money, but you keep talking about blowing a $50 million hole in our revenue stream. So, look, if you look across this country right now, every province is suffering from the same circumstances we are. Almost every province was forecasting a significant deficit. Almost every province is coming in at about twice that significant deficit. These are the times we're living in, people, but we're going to protect Prince Edward Islanders, grow out of this, and be better off in the end.
Thank you. Thank you, gentlemen. Switching now to healthcare, and we will begin with Rob. For this question, you will each have 90 seconds again to answer. Construction began in 2024 on the new Mental Health and Addictions campus. Last week, Health PEI shared that the project is expected to be completed in 2028 at a cost of $271 million. How will the new Mental Health and Addictions campus contribute to better access for care for Islanders?
Thank you, Robert. And this is a reality. The opposition spent many years pretending that this is something that wasn't happening, but it is. And every Islander knows someone affected by mental health or addiction challenges. So our new Mental Health and Addictions campus is a world-class facility built right here in PEI. This has been the most significant capital investment in our province since the Confederation Bridge. That's how seriously we take improving access to care for Islanders. The new campus is transforming how we provide services through a community-first system. It integrates specialized facilities, and it provides a full continuum of care that never existed here before. It begins with acute inpatient care. Patients are treated in the acute care facility. Then we have the transition and extended support for those who aren't ready for full independence. They can move to the Wellness and Transition Center for bridge programming and supported living. And we also have community reintegration and skill development. The structured programming facility, another building on that campus, focuses on life skills, symptom management, and wellness for those with ongoing needs. This is just the beginning. We'll continue building a system that meets Islanders where they are, supports families, and ensures that no one faces mental health or addictions challenges alone.
Thank you, Rob. Mark?
Of course, the new facility is going to provide better access to acute care for Islanders suffering from mental health and addiction issues. Of course it will. It was long overdue, the replacement of the Hillsborough Hospital, but this whole exercise has been a bit of an exercise in bad planning and bad decision-making. We started out, you'll remember, with a $100 million facility, and it was going to contain 196 beds. 5 years later, we've got a $272 million facility, almost 3 times, with 64 beds. Like, how does that add up? What's going on here? So delivery is about 5 years late. It's long overdue, and we need to have it. But what this does is it underlines a problem with spending, a problem with planning, a problem in knowing where you're going, even with essential services like this. So I'm confident that we're going to have a top-tier, world-class facility. I'm less confident that Health PEI is going to be able to staff it and make it work and make it go. Buildings are nice, but the people, it's the services that are going to be provided by the people that make it matter most. Yesterday, we heard about the mental health folks moving to the, where? The Delta Hotel. I mean, that's another example of poor planning. We've got to do better. We can do better. I will do better.
Thank you, Mark. Open for further comment.
Mark's very good at identifying problems. I prefer to remain hopeful. And he knows very well that cost throughout the build-out of that entire campus was throughout that entire inflationary period. Many of you have probably built things throughout that period and saw the cost rising extraordinarily. We carried on. We made the investment to produce a world-class facility right there. And it reminds me a bit about the, will they be able to staff it and run it? Can we do it? Will it be good as we say it will be? It reminds me of the talk about the medical school here at UPEI. Yes, we can do it. Yes, we can. We can do great things in Prince Edward Island here if we put our minds to it, if we invest in Islanders, and do what's best for patients in Prince Edward Island.
If I may,
Mark?
I took a few moments and I drilled into this, and what I found was we have a Department of Health that has a project management function. We have Health PEI that has a project management function. Do you think they talk to one another? I don't think so. So the left hand is doing this, the right hand is doing that. I think I've got them crossed up. But that's a problem. We have this duplication. We have these agencies. We have these silos. And do you know what it does? It leads to outcomes like this. Like, we can do better than this. We don't have to have something that's exploded. We can do better.
Mark's actually identified a problem that I'm way ahead of him on. We are deeply into capital expenditures here in Prince Edward Island. We are building capital projects all across Prince Edward Island, and I recognize the need for...
Thank you. Thank you. The next question will first go to Mark. Aside from the Mental Health and Addictions Campus, what additional community-based services will your government maintain or expand in order to support Islanders struggling with mental health and addictions?
Well, here in the Charlottetown area and across PEI, but especially in Charlottetown, I know we have a group of dedicated people. A lot of them are volunteers that are going the extra mile for Islanders who struggle with mental health and addictions. We need to remember those people because they do it because they want to do it because they care. And you can't replace that, you can't buy that. Health PEI can't provide that. So let's think about that. The system that I have envisioned is, and you've heard me talk about this before, it goes back to medical homes. Medical homes need to provide mental health and addiction services. That's why we got to have them across the province. We have to get at this exercise of getting medical homes built, getting them functioning, getting mental health services and addiction services inside our medical homes, because that's where people will go. They don't want to come to Charlottetown. They don't want to go out to the QEH. They would rather go to a facility in their community. Mental health is wellness. We have to
Thank you, Mark.
do it.
Rob?
Look, we can never stop finding ways to reach those in need here in Prince Edward Island, and we've done some very innovative things. Take, for example, Farmers Talk, nationally recognized program here in Prince Edward Island that supports the mental health in our agricultural community. We should be very proud of that. We also have e-mental health services, including Bridge the Gap, providing islanders with access to care wherever they are. We've developed mental health access line, providing a clear point of entry to all of our services to help people navigate the system. We launched same-day access walk-in clinics at 7 locations across the province, providing support for islanders who are ready to reach out when they need help. And under my leadership, we'll not stop there. We'll continue to identify ways that, to serve people who are struggling with mental health and addictions. It is a troubling problem. As housing minister, I was proud of the outreach services that we've stood up here in the province with caseworkers, mental health and addiction support there.
Thank you, Rob.
It's unfortunate that we need it.
Thank you. Mark, open for further comment.
So back to planning issues, and I love this one while it matters. The addiction facility out in Mount Herbert, when we open the new one, guess what they're going to do? They're going to close it. So we've got 16 detox beds out there. We're going to have 16 detox beds at the new facility, and we've got detox problems. We've got a lineup of people trying to get into detox in Mount Herbert, and what are they going to do? They're going to close it. And I said to them, what are you going to do with Mount Herbert? We can't say. We don't know yet. So this makes no sense. Mount Herbert is dear to me because that's where my father-in-law is from, and that facility has got to stay open. Health PEI says we're going to close it. Those are the kinds of decisions we got to come to terms with. They don't make sense.
Rob?
Those are. You're still back and forth. Still in rebuttal.
Yes, sir.
Good, thank you. Those are decisions that we have to get, we need to wrestle with. And I've never said that I would close the 16 beds down at Mount Herbert. If we can staff those beds, we will keep them open. Staffing is a challenge across every sector in Prince Edward Island, but if we can keep them open, we will. But keep in mind, there are new ways, particularly in withdrawal management. We've had great success. There is lots of evidence. Outpatient withdrawal management with the appropriate supports is just as effective, if not more in many cases. We've stood this up. We'll continue to expand it. It can be very successful.
Thank you, gentlemen. This next question is on the topic of education, and we will begin with Rob. Last week, Federal Liberal Immigration Minister Lena Diab told the media that universities and colleges struggling to balance the books after federal cuts to the International Student Program will have to turn to their provincial governments for financial help. As Premier, how will your government address supporting island post-secondary institutions?
Well, there's no doubt that the changes made by the federal government to the International Student Program have had a really dramatic impact on our post-secondary institutions, not just here, but right across the country. So government now needs to help our institutions adjust to this new reality. Holland College, UPEI, Collège de Lille, Marguerite Connolly Training and Consulting. We need to support recruitment initiatives so that they can find new students from across Canada. We need to connect education to opportunity by deepening partnerships with industries and communities. We need to expand access and upskilling by supporting non-traditional learners in our institutions. It's worth pointing out that government spends $100 million every year to support post-secondary institutions on Prince Edward Island. These These institutions have a real impact on building a robust workforce for Prince Edward Island, and we'll continue to support them.
Thank you, Rob. Mark?
You see, this is one of the differences between my friend and me. He says we need to adjust to the new reality. I'm appalled at what the federal government has done with immigration and PEI. Somebody needs to put their hand up and stand up and say, this doesn't work. We need to do it another way. First it was Mark Miller, and now it's the new minister, Minister Diab, and she's saying, guess what, provinces, you're on your own. You've lost all these international students, you're on your own. You're going to have to figure it out. And they did it overnight. They didn't give us any notice. So at Holland College, they lost about 750 international students, just like that. You can't, it's not right, it's not fair. So this is why I say we need more control over immigration, because we can't run our institutions like this, and we shouldn't just accept it from Ottawa. We need to stand up, we need to sit down and say, let's make PEI an example for the rest of the country. We didn't abuse immigration, let's make it work.
Thank you, Mark. Open for further comment.
I support immigration wholeheartedly, immigration that we can sustainably absorb and integrate into our province. I think that this country, this province, we took action at a time when the Trudeau government's immigration policies were frankly out of control. We're just still reckoning with some of the challenges that put upon us, and one of them is how to keep our post-secondary institutions sustainably financed. Yes, we are going to adapt to it. Yes, I believe that we can get to a point where we can absorb more international students. We're investing in ways to integrate immigrants into this community more effectively. But we need a reset, and we need to work with our institutions so that they're financially sustainable and can support this province well into the future.
Mark?
We spend, and I don't know if everyone knows this, we spent roughly $95 million on UPEI, on Holland College, on the French College, and on commitments that we've made to the Vet College. What I say is, okay, that's fine, we're committed to that. I think we need to remain committed to that. We need to do more with our institutions. We have to ask them to do more. Last week we had a letter from a economics professor at UPI about our debt situation. We've had innovators like Dr. Regis Duffy, who came from the university and built an industry in PEI. We need to get closer to the institutions. They need to become the R&D center for all of us, for our government, for our people. And I think we can do that, and I think there's a great future with our institutions.
Thanks, gentlemen. The next question will go to you, Mark. Since 2019, the PC government has expanded the George Coles bursary to cover up to $14,000 for island students over a 4-year period. As Premier, will you commit to maintaining the George Coles bursary? And in your view, what additional steps can government take to support island students?
The short answer is yes. I will commit to maintaining the George Coles bursary. I think it's an excellent program. It costs us about $14 million a year to make these funds available to island residents, students who would like to attend a university or take a training program. And it works out to, roughly speaking, $14,000 for each student over 4 years. In terms of what we can do more, I think this is where we need to get a little bit creative, and we need to think about ways we can better integrate our students into the workforce, because a lot of people still go to school, come out of a training program, and then they say, now what am I going to do? So what I've been thinking about and what I've read about are better co-op programs, better paid internships, longer-term internships, because the feedback I've had from a lot of young people is that I can find a job, but it's not long enough. It's maybe 3 or 4 months or 6 months, and it doesn't help me.
Thank you, Mark. Rob?
And yes, again, the short answer is yes. In fact, this government raised the George Coles bursary 3 times. We raised it by $400 in 2023, up to $3,000. We raised it again in 2024 to $3,200, and then again in just last year to $3,500. So this is real substantial support. It's a real incentive for island students to stay and study here in Prince Edward Island. This is affordability for island students. It really is. I've got a UPEI student under my roof right now. It's amazing how little his tuition is at the end of the day after the bursary is applied. But under my leadership, we'll also build on the Marion L. Reid grant to support healthcare learners, and we'll expand. As Mark said, I think we need to do better with co-op and internship programs to connect students directly to the workforce. And we'll support post-secondary entrepreneurship with mentorship and flexible programs. These are all good things. These are all things that we can work collaboratively with our post-secondary institutions to implement to the betterment of the province as a whole.
Thank you, Rob. Open to further comment.
Okay.
Yep, further
Yeah.
comment.
So I'd like to say two things. First, I mentioned the funding that we provide to our universities and colleges. We need to ask them to engage in the same kind of rigor that we need to ask our government to engage in to deal with money, to deal with debt. What I know is that both UPEI and Holland College they're going underwater as well because of this international student situation. So they had budgets, and they're not going to meet them. So where are they going to go to get the money? They're going to come to the government. So we need to ask them to do more. The second thing I would say is, and this isn't my idea, I went to a bunch of young people and I said, give me some creative ideas. And they said, one of the biggest problems we have is student debt. So we have these bursaries, but we also borrow money. Help them work off the debt. Ask them to go into specialized programs. Come up with a program where they can earn credits to pay off the debt so they can buy a home, so they can do the kinds of things they want to do. So these are some of the things that we should be able to do in a province like ours.
Thank you, Mark. Rob?
Yeah, I think that integration between learning and working is very important. And we do have some strong models to work from. The Sustainable Design Engineering program at UPEI does a fantastic job integrating work experience with applied learning. And I think we can learn from that and build on that model. I just want to say, with regard to the George Coles bursary and the incentive to stay here and work in Prince Edward Island, some of you may have seen a TikTok trend where students reveal where they're going to go to university by donning a hoodie. They pop up in the TikTok video. And there's a real trend, a real large volume of those showing up with UPEI jerseys on. So UPEI is a very, very popular choice for Islanders. It's affordable, and it's an excellent education.
Thank you, gentlemen. The next two questions are related to the tourism industry on PEI. A 3-year pilot program was to begin in late 2025 to expand regional air service, including restored air travel between Charlottetown and Halifax. Yet delays have resulted in operationalizing the program, and no timelines are known today. Rob, as Premier, are you committed to working with partners to restore regional air service at Charlottetown Airport? And what steps will you take to ensure it is underway ahead of the summer tourism season on PEI?
So affordable, convenient access on and off the island is of vital importance for Prince Edward Island, for tourism, for business, for connecting islanders to the rest of Canada and around the world. And the Charlottetown Airport has been a real success story here in Charlottetown. We've seen additional flight paths added, additional carriers, expansion of the facility itself, the terminal. We have so many opportunities for travel at our doorstep, but we took a blow during COVID when we lost our regional air services. So when I first entered the Premier's office, this deal was stalled. It had been negotiated among the Atlantic Premiers, but it was stalled, dead, going nowhere. The new Liberal government in New Brunswick was wavering on it, but as Premier, I brought this back to life. I worked with Atlantic Partners to get everyone back to the table and get the other premiers to commit to this service. I wouldn't let it go. It's too essential for PEI, and I was thrilled when the agreement was signed. So when I'm back in the Premier's office, I'm going to make sure that this is operational in this upcoming season.
Mark, same question to you.
I don't know what kind of a deal it was because it's still stalled. Look, let's be clear. These aren't about tourism flights. These links are vital to PEI. We need them for our business travelers. We need them for medical travelers. We need them for families, for visits. So having these links is critical. So I saw the PAL deal coming together. I was encouraged. I said, that's good. We need every way we can link PEI to the mainland, to the rest of the world. We need to do it, especially these days. But then crickets. It didn't happen. What kind of an agreement have we struck? I don't know the terms, so I'm not privy to that. But it was supposed to happen the end of the year. It hasn't happened. People are left wondering, we don't know. What's the real reason? We haven't been told. It's back to transparency. What kind of a deal is this? Maybe we'll get some answers this evening.
Thank you, Mark. Further comments, Rob?
I don't recall it ever being announced that it would happen at the end of the year. It's a very complex agreement to pull together. It's a code share agreement between PAL Airlines and Air Canada. The regional carrier will actually operate the flights on behalf of Air Canada, but Air Canada controls the branding, the scheduling, all the ticket inventory. It's a complex agreement to put in place. And I'd always known that the springtime was a likely timeline for this. I think we're all going to be very pleased to have regional air service back here again. And it was a deal that was dead. It came back to life. It's going to happen here, folks.
Mark?
I've been working on this on my own. So 3 or 4 years ago, I managed to persuade Flair Air to come to PEI. They were operating out of Edmonton at that time. And I know the challenges because we're a small market. We're not at the top of everyone's list. But there's a theme here that we need to think about, and that is defending ourselves as a province. We get pushed around sometimes in a manner that I'm not proud of. Air Canada pushes us around. WestJet pushes us around. PAL looks like they might be pushing us around or having second thoughts. The telcos push us around. Bell, Rogers, we need to push back.
Thank you, Mark. For this next question, we will begin with Mark. As Premier, what will your government do to further expand the tourism season on PEI?
Well, I think we need to think beyond the traditional tourism season and shift away from the 4-month visitor campaign. Our tourism numbers include visits by business people, by families, and family travel. And I think the goal, and everyone agrees with this, is to try and expand the shoulder season and get into a better 12-month model. One of the things that I think we can do is focus on our arts and culture community, on our sports community, and the role that they can play in holding events at venues like this in the off-season, because this is a top Canadian venue that we should be taking advantage of and making use of. We probably can't compete like with the big ski hills, but we have got great trails around PEI. I spent last week with the ATV Federation, who are building a wonderful new year-round activity in PEI that's good for islanders and it's good for tourists. So it's a new industry that just created out of nowhere,
Mark.
worth about $50 million.
Thank you. Rob, same question to you.
Yeah, thanks. 2 years ago, in 2024, we saw record tourism growth here in Prince Edward Island, generating almost $90 million in tax revenue. Proof that our island is the place to be, and we're expecting to meet or exceed these numbers in 2025 when we get them. But we all know it was a big year. You could feel it. You could feel it around here, Charlottetown. You could feel it on the highways, Prince Edward Island. It was a good year. So as a leader, I'm committed to supporting the expansion of the shoulder seasons by working with our valued partners in the industry, the RTAs, the DMOs, TIPI, Meet PEI, all of the stakeholders that work in the industry. But we're also going to need to support operators to create experiential tourism packages and opportunities that allow them to remain open year-round. I know we have some incredible offerings every year. There's more and more and more exciting things to do here in Prince Edward Island.
Thank you. Open for further comment, gentlemen.
As a leader, one of the things I'd like to do in tourism is to get government out of it and not as involved as government is into it, and let the private sector do more. And one of the best examples of this is what Don McDougall has done in Mill River. That golf course was, falling down. The resort wasn't in great shape. Government made a decision, the right decision in my view, to sell it. Don came in, bought it, and what did he do? He had made investments. He built a hub out there. He's got a curling rink. He's got commercial activity. And when you travel to West Prince now, Mill River is a hub. So that's a really good example of how we should proceed with our tourism industry. Government doesn't need to own everything. Government doesn't need to operate everything.
Rob?
Government doesn't need to own everything, and we've got some incredible entrepreneurs that have invested heavily in Prince Edward Island's tourism industry, created some incredible offerings here that are incredibly popular. I have one other thing that I would like to throw out there. Under my leadership, we're going to initiate and launch the 2027 Homecoming Year. We're going to do this in recognition of the 30th anniversary of the Confederation Bridge. It's time to welcome people home. It's going to be a year of bringing people home, family reunions, support for island-wide festivals, cultural events to put PEI on the national stage for the entire year. The more we attract visitors year-round, the more PEI thrives, and I think it's going to be a great year.
Thanks, gentlemen. Switching now to public safety, and this question will go first to Rob. Communities across Charlottetown and Queens County have raised concerns about rising property crime and pressures on policing and community safety programs. As Premier, how would you strengthen public safety in Queens County in a way that supports law enforcement while also investing in crime prevention and community-based solutions?
Well, I realize we're here in Queens County, in Charlottetown, but I wouldn't want to restrict my suggestions here to just Queens County. I think we need to look more broadly for solutions that work across the province. And the Joint Enforcement Task Force, Joint Enforcement Team is a really, really good example of this. We call it the JET. It's a collaboration between the provincial RCMP, Summerside Police, and the Kensington Police, and it's working really well to address major drug-related concerns across Prince Edward Island, busting the bigwigs. And they're doing very impressive work. It's a pilot program, but it's proving to be very successful, and I believe we can expand on this collaborative model for addressing other types of crimes across the province. But we also need to grow our workforce. We need to train more cadets right here in Prince Edward Island. This past summer, I was at the Atlantic Police Academy, and they do really impressive work. I believe we can tap into federal funding, defense spending to expand the police academy, and there's a real opportunity there for a center of excellence.
Thank you, Rob. Mark, same question to you.
The police academy is an outstanding facility, and it can do more. It can do more with police officers. It can do more with teachers. It can do more with social workers. It's just an outstanding facility. The two biggest threats to public safety in our province are impaired driving and drugs, illegal drugs, hard drugs. On the impaired driving side, I've suggested, and I've urged, and I've had support from Susie Dillon, MLA, to bring in the roadside prohibition. The roadside prohibition allows a police officer to write a ticket, take you off the road, don't have to go through a 3-hour processing. I practice criminal law. I know how this stuff works. It's working in Alberta. It's working in BC. It's working in Ontario. It needs to work here. On illegal drugs, guns, crime, organized crime, vicious assaults, the answer is to get those things out of here. And you got to be vigilant. You have to go at it full time. That's what I'll do.
Thank you, Mark. Open for further comment.
Yeah, so when touring the police academy, there was a lot of discussion while we were there about this increased defense spending coming out of Ottawa and how we can capitalize on that opportunity. I think the academy could do a wonderful job expanding to train police officers, not only police officers, but Canadian Border Protection agents, military police. The possibilities are endless. We have the infrastructure and the know-how to make this happen right here in Prince Edward Island. But people expect safe communities and that they can be proud to live in, and we should support practical, effective community policing solutions that give people a sense of security in their homes. And Bail reform has been a very hot topic of discussion around the table at the federal level. I know that our Department of Justice and Public Safety is looking to ramp up a bail reform program here. We have to keep repeat offenders, violent offenders, off of our streets. This is a subject of serious discussion across the province, the country, and also right here directly in the province.
Mark, further thoughts?
Well, I mentioned drugs. I'd also like to mention our schools, and I know we have people from our schools here this evening, and specifically bullying in our schools and cyberbullying in our schools, and we're losing young people. We're losing people who are with mental health problems. We've got to find a way to deal with this. Now, what I understand is that there's frustration with our education system because things are off balance. We've had too many changes at the top. Is it the PSB or is it the department? Is it the Premier's office or is it the minister? People don't know. They want clarity. We've got to get beyond this because these young people are being subjected to bullying, and the word I hear from the educators is that it's a problem and it's not being addressed. So I'll do that, and I'll do it next week. We'll have a meeting next week.
Thank you. The next two questions relate to the topic of housing and social development, and we will begin with Mark. Charlottetown and Queens County have seen a sharp rise in visible homelessness, with shelters operating at or beyond capacity, and more islanders relying on temporary or emergency accommodations. As Premier, what concrete steps would you take to reduce homelessness in Queens County over the next 2 years? How would you ensure that those actions address both immediate needs and the long-term causes driving people into homelessness?
The causes of homelessness are never one thing. They involve housing shortages, rising costs of living, toxic drugs, hard drugs, the stigma around homelessness, limited funding for affordable housing, and mental health and addictions problems. I was intrigued by homelessness. I went to the Park Street shelter one evening with someone, and I managed to talk my way in because it's a highly secure facility just to see what it's all about. And one of the things that I left there thinking is, thank God we have this. Thank God that there's a place for folks to stay. The same thing in Summerside. You know, I've spoken with the mayor and people there about the homeless issues there. So we have to be there. We have to be empathetic. And I think everyone in this room probably feels that way. But we have to make sure that this doesn't become a chronic thing. So how do we go at it? We have wonderful agencies, I spoke about those before, and volunteers who are helping our homeless people.
Thank you. Rob, same question to you.
Well, Mark is right. Homelessness is very complex. There's diverse causes, and it requires different solutions in every case. There's no one-size-fits-all, and Mark is right. The outreach center that we have here in Charlottetown is a critical piece of infrastructure for dealing with not only homelessness, but the mental health and addictions crisis that we're facing. I was proud to stand up that facility in the face of very strong public opposition. This government's responded on a number of fronts. We've significantly expanded emergency shelters across the province. In fact, I committed to the mayor of Summerside to put that emergency shelter in Summerside. It was not in our budget. It was not in our mandate. The Premier wasn't pleased about it, but I got it done. It took a while, but we got it done because it's needed. We're moving towards a housing first. We have a pilot project. The first 13 units opened this year. It's a proven, housing first, proven model.
Thank you, Rob.
It should provide good results.
Open for further comment.
One of the things I think we need to really work hard at are the low-cost housing solutions. Years ago, I was working with Bill Campbell, actually back in the 1980s, and getting the King Square Housing Co-op off the ground here in Charlottetown. And we went to a meeting over at the rec center, and I remember it well because there were a bunch of people really upset, just as there have been a bunch of people upset about the outreach center. But you know what? We had a meeting. Everybody said their views. It was a packed room just like this. We got it done. Bill reminded me earlier this year about what it took to get that off the ground, because what it means is it's a low-cost place in inner city Charlottetown for people who are homeless to come and live. And I'm proud of it, and I think Charlottetown is proud of it as well.
Rob?
Well, Bill's quite a guy. And all these years later, after you were working with Mark, I've been working with him recently as well. One of the initiatives I stood up as housing minister is the Community Housing Expansion Program. We partnered with two nonprofits and a cooperative housing, the Cooperative Housing Federation of Canada. We provided them with capacity building money to acquire and build new properties. One of those is King Square Housing Partnership, and so I've had the opportunity to work with Bill. It's been a very successful program. It was part of my mandate, and it's working. But I have to say, our investments in housing in this province are really, really starting to pay off. It was, for the first time in 5 years, our rental vacancy rate is 2.1%. We've had excellent success. The last 2 years have been the greatest number of housing starts on record, and
Thank you, gentlemen.
we'll continue.
Thank you. The next question is related to housing, so you're lucky, Rob. PEI's housing strategy seeks to have 2,000 housing starts each year between 2025 and 2030. In 2024, PEI achieved 1,684 starts, an increase of 48.7%. The construction industry employs 8,500 Islanders year-round. Yet the Construction Association of PEI warns that meeting this goal may prove difficult given the current labor capacities on PEI. So Rob, as Premier, how will you help the construction industry on PEI meet the goals outlined in the government's housing strategy?
Okay, so there's 3 pillars of the housing strategy: accelerate housing supply, improve affordability, and provide housing for vulnerable Islanders. And the Construction Association has been a really key partner to date in helping us to achieve these goals. But we need to support the Construction Association by working collaboratively with them to help grow the workforce through training, both training and recruitment. We have, in the past, worked very strongly with them on these 2 pillars, but we need to continue to incentivize developers to build. And we've got some great incentives that have really sparked development here. Take, for example, the HST rebate. We were one of the first provinces to come to the table and match the federal government's GST rebate. It's been an incredible incentive for purpose-built multi-unit rentals. Starts have been very strong, but some would say we've overbuilt. I think even Sam from the Construction Association would say that Summerside is overbuilt.
Thank you, Rob. Mark, same question to you.
2 aspects to this question. One is on the housing supply side. I'm no expert in housing, but what I hear and what I'm seeing is that, like heat pumps, we may have gone overboard, because now it seems in Charlottetown and Summerside we may have an oversupply of new units. It doesn't address the affordability question, but it's a reminder that we need to let the private sector do its thing, because when government gets involved in some of these things, it throws a problem in the market. The other thing about this are the workers, the trades, not the developers, but the workers. And here we have a lot of people, a lot of young people involved in trades. I've always said we want to get more women involved in trades. We want to make trades a good job, a job that people aspire to. And if we can get our interprovincial trade stuff sorted out, we might be able to have tradespeople from PEI working in projects around the country. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. Open for further comment.
Well, I'm sure many people in this room remember the urgency of the housing crisis in the range of 2023-24, some of the measures we took. And I mentioned that HST rebate, which is a huge incentive for developers to build multi-unit buildings. And you see that response all across the province. Now, we need, I think at this point, to turn our eyes to more affordable family homes for young Islanders and for first-time home buyers. And I think there's an opportunity to turn that incentive that we used for multi-unit buildings to those more affordable units for young people, first-time home buyers. It is a partnership that we have with the federal government. Of course, we would have to negotiate being able to use that incentive for more affordable housing, but as I commit to doing this moving forward when I'm back in the Premier's office.
Thank you. Mark?
I'm glad my friend reminded me about the HST rebate for developers, because he's opposed to an HST break for islanders. I don't understand that. Developers don't need an HST rebate. Islanders want an HST break. I proposed one from 15% to 14%. So, you know, we have to be consistent here. So I know that it was done to incent developers to build. It worked. We should pull it back because, as my friend says, we need the money. But we need the money to put in the pockets of islanders. So I think that's where I would go with this one.
Okay, thank you. We have two questions for you related to the business climate on PEI. And on the first question, we will begin with Mark. The island's bioscience and biopharmaceutical industry is among the fastest growing in the province, with over 65 companies and 2,300 jobs. In fact, the sector doubled its economic impact from 2016 until 2023, and is on track to hit over $1 billion in revenue by 2030. Mark, as Premier, how will you ensure the island's bioscience and biopharmaceutical industry continues to grow?
It's an amazing success story, and we're looking for the next one. But when you think of Regis Duffy working out of his garage over on Newland Crescent while he was a chemistry professor at UPI or at St. Dunstan's, it's just absolutely incredible what's happened here. This has become one of the top industries in PEI. And in my approach, bioscience should not be viewed as a silo or as a standalone industry. It needs to work, and it will work, with other industries like agriculture, like aquaculture, like manufacturing, and in IT. So what I say is support it by integrating it into our economy. Make it work with other institutions like Holland College and UPEI. We need to focus on growth, and we can engage in growth by helping these startup companies in the bioscience sector with export markets, with capital, and with anchor customers. So we have to find
Thank you,
ways.
Mark.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Rob, same question to you.
Well, hat tip to Mark's daughter, Lauren, who is now the CEO of the PEI BioAlliance. I had the pleasure of meeting with her, a very intelligent young lady who's now leading the alliance, took over for Rory Francis, and I look forward to her putting her stamp on it. But that's part of the conversation that we had, Mark, actually. I said, can the PEI BioAlliance become the PEI Innovation Alliance? Can it cover a broader umbrella of agri-tech, clean tech, different kinds of innovation without watering down their focus on bioscience? She seemed very receptive to that. I actually know firsthand about what it's like to be in this industry. In 2016, I helped launch a new bioscience startup that develops natural health products for animal health, and we were lucky to have the support of the PEI BioAlliance and the Emergence Incubator and Innovation PEI and some of the great mentors in the industry along the way. I mean, what more can be said about this industry? We built it here from the ground up. The industry built it because government got out of the way, supported them, and got out of the way. And I hear about it all over North America. Prince Edward Island punches above its weight.
Thank you. Open for further comment, Mark.
So the point that we need to be careful of is that we build these companies up, but that we don't lose them. We have to create the economic climate and the conditions that will encourage them to stay. And that's why our tax structure, our investment climate, having a regional airline connector to Halifax, having robust export programs where we're trying to diversify our markets, where we have talent programs, where we're recruiting people, where we have good healthcare programs and good access to healthcare. Because when you're trying to, recruit somebody and get them to come to PEI instead of going to somewhere else, they look at things like education, like healthcare. So we have an obligation to do better in those areas if we're going to support and sustain this industry, and we really want to do that.
Rob?
And Mark talks about regional air service and corporate tax reductions, both two things we've done very recently. And we'll continue to support the business climate here best we can. But many people in this room may not know that last year, 2 bioscience companies here in Prince Edward Island were the subject of the largest acquisitions in the country. These were very, very significant deals done here on Prince Edward Island, companies that were built from the ground up in here in Prince Edward Island. And part of the success of this industry, as I alluded to earlier, is government staying out of the way, supporting industry, supporting their strategy, being there to invest in infrastructure when they need it, labor rebates, tax incentives, but getting out of the way, letting them do it. And what we've done very well is successive governments of different political stripes have continued to support that strategy and that objective. And that's why we've carried this through and built the industry that we have here. And this government will continue to do that.
Thank you. Our last question in this section will go to you first, Rob. How will your government support small business startups on PEI?
Well, as I mentioned in my last answer there, I've been a part of a couple of small business startups, and so it's a priority for me because new businesses are essential to have a strong, resilient economy here in Prince Edward Island. And as Premier, I'll continue to deliver targeted tax relief through small business tax rebates, higher small business thresholds, and new programs like the Next Generation Tax Holiday for young farmers and entrepreneurs in the resource industries. I think that's one way that several ways that we can support them. But we'll also improve access to capital by increasing the Ignition Fund grants from $25,000 to $30,000, and by expanding low or no interest loan options for young entrepreneurs. When I talk to new business owners, they tell me that one of the challenges they face is not having someone to talk to who understands their situation and has advice for them. So again, connecting those mentors to young entrepreneurs is extremely important.
Thank you. Mark, same question to you.
Small business is the backbone of the PEI economy. We're not a big business province, we're a small business province. Supporting small business is really what government needs to do, not own it, but support it. And we've got some great entrepreneurs who've come from PEI. We've already mentioned Regis Duffy, but people like Donnie Allen and Harvey Stewart and Scott Linkletter and Jason Aspen, the Murphys, Keir Pollard, Kim Green. You can keep going. And they are people who engaged in entrepreneurship and in innovation and built something, employed people, gave to our economy, and they remind me all the time that we have to create conditions for success in PEI. With our young people, we have an excellent JA program that is going into our schools, teaching about entrepreneurship. So there's all kinds of things I think we need to do. One thing I will raise, and maybe we'll get into it later, is red tape. Entrepreneurs don't like red tape.
Thank you, Mark. Open for further comment.
Yeah, I mentioned earlier some of the supports that I received through trying to build a small business, and I mentioned Innovation PEI, an important part of our supports for entrepreneurs, small business startups in Prince Edward Island. But it's time for us to do a full review of our program, a full program review of Innovation's business supports. I think we need to make sure that we've got modern supports that are supporting businesses in a modern way, that are addressing the challenges of starting up businesses in this day and age. And look, access to capital is always a significant challenge for business startups, not just startups, but even established companies. And I think Island Capital Partners has been a real pioneer in providing pre-seed, seed, venture capital money here for emerging businesses. I think we can build on their example. We just need to incentivize established businesses to step forward and bring capital forward to young, promising entrepreneurs.
Thank you, Rob. Mark, further comments?
I mentioned red tape, and what red tape does is it can suffocate and it can hurt the spirit of an entrepreneur and somebody trying to get something off the ground. You've all heard about the horror stories about building permits. And I can talk all night about people I've met who've had problems with building permits, had problems with rules. So we need to, and part of my agenda is to cut out some red tape. I just want to mention one story quickly. I was out in Mount Stewart one day, and I walked into this, it was at the old Trailside Cafe, and it's an IT company, and it's called Compass Tech. And it's a bunch of people working in a high-tech industry in Mount Stewart, and its clients are around the world. I mean, those are fascinating stories. I'd love to tell them because I think we want to see more of them in communities across PEI.
Thank you. Our last topic of the evening is youth, and this question will go first to Mark. As Premier, what will your government do to stem youth out migration?
Well, the way it's been put to me is that when young islanders don't see opportunity, they leave. When they see it, they stay. So we need to create an environment that has opportunity. How do we do that? They need to be able to see good jobs, not seasonal jobs, but meaningful employment, affordable living. They want to know that they can afford a home or afford an apartment and start a family. And they have to have, and they want to have, a sense of a future. So we have to think about supporting industries that create this environment, that create these pathways to careers. And we need to improve our housing affordability. We need to improve our healthcare access so that young people can build a life here. And finally, we have to have a safe education system, a quality education system. I know the frontline workers are committed to that. We have to be committed to it as well.
Thank you, Mark. Rob, same question to you.
I'm really proud that I've got so many young people working on my team, and I'm equally proud that there's so many young people that appear to be joining and engaging with our PC party, and I think that bodes well both for the province and for the future. I agree with Mark. I mean, it is all about opportunities and jobs here in Prince Edward Island. The success of the next generation, it's very personal for me and my team, and it's helping shape the decisions we make. Just on the weekend, actually, I had the opportunity to meet with members of Fusion Charlottetown. It's a group of young leaders. It's been established for 10 or 12 years now. They're always very inspiring to speak to. But they have great ideas of how we can foster and fuel opportunities for young people in this province. But we need to listen and support those ideas. And what I heard is good paying jobs, affordable housing, a sense of belonging that lets young people build real futures here. They want community, they want to be engaged, they want to see a future, and that's our responsibility to help them see that.
Thank you, Rob. Open for further comment.
When I was getting prepared for this, I did an informal poll. Politicians, I guess, like polls, but some do, some don't. But I did an informal poll, and the thing I was told, and the thing that it resonated with me, is that we need to include young people in our decision-making. And that's very important because sometimes we assume that we know what's on their mind. So it's very important that we get plugged in that way, and that means going out into the communities. I was going to mention Fusion Charlottetown as well because I think it's just a tremendous organization, and I see the advocacy they've done. In my campaign, I've been working with student council from West Isle High School. Those people, if you can believe it, have been really pushing hard on the oyster situation in West Prince, and it's just incredible to see the passion behind what they're doing. The flag is up. I'll stop.
Rob, further comment?
Well, I think young people want to contribute to a positive dialogue here in the province about our future, and they're turned off by negativity. We have a responsibility to set an example, but they want to have their voices heard and their ideals valued. And I want to lead a team that will listen to these voices so we can build a stronger party and a stronger province for Prince Edward Island. So one of the things that I'm committed to doing is reinstating the Premier's Youth Council. I want to bring young voices around the table so that we can hear the decision makers in this province can hear the voices of young people, hear their vision for the future of Prince Edward Island. I am very committed to handing over the reins of a new generation that I feel coming up through the province, through the party. They're working on my team. They're so enthusiastic, smart. The future is bright. If we hand them the keys to the kingdom, I know that they are going to make the best of this province.
Thank you. Thank you both. We've reached the lightning round. As a reminder, you will have 30 seconds to respond to these questions, and there will be no debate. This question goes to you first, Rob, and I think we all know your answer, but will you reestablish the Premier's Youth Council? 30 seconds.
What can I say? Well, look, I think it's really important. I've been thinking about this a lot recently just because I've met so many inspiring young people, spoken to so many inspiring young people over the course of this campaign, and it needs to be done right. I'm going to seek advice about how to set this up, how we engage with them, how we receive their advice. I'm excited about it, and I look forward to it.
Thank you. Mark, same question to you. Will you reestablish the Premier's Youth Council?
Yes, the Youth Council needs to be reinvigorated, and I was a member of a Premier's Youth Council in my youth, and the person I joined with was Rory Beck, who's not with us anymore, and Rory and I were political friends. He went off in one direction, and I stayed here, but it's really important that we engage young people across the province from everywhere. Yes, I will.
Thank you. This question is also for each of you, and we'll start with Mark. What is the most meaningful moment that stood out to you over the course of this leadership race?
I think meeting with, I've had some really colorful meetings in communities. I had one person say, you should have me running healthcare because I can cut a nickel 5 ways. And people, it's the frugal. I had somebody who voted the other day and died 30 minutes later. I've had kids say to me, my grandkids, I wish I could vote. It's really engaging. It's emotional. If anybody ever says to you that Islanders don't care about their community or about politics, they don't know what they're talking about. It is really powerful what's happening across our province right now. It's powerful what's happening in this room.
Thank you. Same question for you, Rob.
Yeah, it's hard to pinpoint. I talked earlier about how much I've enjoyed this opportunity to connect with so many people across Prince Edward Island. And, you know, some people are angry, and I don't blame them. It's difficult times. Some people are living on the brink. We hear a lot of negativity. The world seems to be so unstable and uncertain. And I've had opportunities to speak with people, and I've taken the time, despite my campaign volunteers asking me to get off the phone, but just to speak to people, to hear them out. They can be angry at first. I take great pleasure in getting through a conversation where we can both leave the conversation civilly and understanding each other.
Thank you. This question is for each of you, and we'll start with Rob, and it's on a topic that you both spoke about recently on Island Morning. PEI has a fixed election date in fall 2027. If chosen as PC leader, do you feel you have the mandate needed to govern?
Yes, I do. I was elected in 2023. I'm serving with 20 other MLAs, most of whom were elected at that same time. I've heard throughout those phone calls and visits all around Prince Edward Island that Islanders don't want an election. I think there's lots of runway for us to continue to govern, to continue to deliver for Prince Edward Islanders. We've talked about all kinds of things, all kinds of ideas, all kinds of ways we can still continue to address the challenges of Prince Edward Island, and I'm going to take the time to do that.
Thank you. Mark, same question to you.
Yes, I do, and I don't see my position in this respect being any different than Mr. Lance's. He was an interim premier. He wasn't elected by Islanders to be a premier. He was appointed to that position by his caucus. He said he wasn't going to run, then he decided to run. So his claim to being, having a mandate is no better or no different than mine. If I'm elected premier, I will sit down, I'll work with the team, I'll go to the people and go to the people when it's appropriate. Right now, people want work done.
Thank you, Mark. This next question is for each of you, and you will have 60 seconds to respond on this one, and we'll be starting with you, Mark. Can you share an example of a time when you made a tough decision as a leader?
Yes, I've had several. I had a situation where someone did something they shouldn't have done, and I was approached by a management team and asked to look the other way because this person was a valuable member of our team, a huge producer, a commercially valuable person, and we said no. And it was, an easy decision, but a hard decision, an unpopular decision, but one that had to be made. You're faced with these ethical choices every day. And what I learned was that when you make these decisions, people are watching, and people are learning, and people want to know what you're all about and where you stand. So you can look the other way. You could probably get away with it. But there's all kinds of people, especially young people, watching what you're doing, and they take from that.
Thank you, Mark. Rob, same question to you.
We make difficult decisions every day as leaders in government. I can think of dozens of examples. I think of sitting at Treasury Board one day hearing the story of a 3-year-old child whose only chance at survival was the authorization of a drug that was not on the provincial formulary that cost $1 million. And it didn't seem real that was possible. It's a faceless child of a family that we didn't know. And we could, of course, all imagine that as our own child. And the fate of that child was in the hands of half a dozen people sitting around a table in a boardroom in the Shaw Building in Prince Edward Island. And of course, we made the decision. It was a difficult decision. You're charged with the public accounts of Prince Edward Island.
Thank you,
We were
Rob.
faced with it, and we made it.
Thank you. The final question of the night is for each of you, and you will have 60 seconds to respond, and we'll start with you, Rob. What is the single most important thing you will do as PC leader to unite the party following this leadership race?
It's very simple. I think we had a similar question in Summerside. It's very simple. That we need to come together, and I will reach out. I will reach out to members of Mark's team, to Mark himself, to his volunteers, to members who supported Mark. We have to come back together as one PC team to work together, quite frankly, to defeat the Liberals in the next general election. We're here tonight. We're here tonight. I know this is oppositional, but we are a PC party. We'll come back together and do what we do best, and that's to win elections.
Thank you. Mark, same question to you.
A while ago, when we were going through all of this, my friend said something one day that I thought was important. He said, caucus have told me they want a race. Caucus don't want a coronation. And our party doesn't do coronations. We've never mastered that. Liberals have. Green Party, I'm not sure. I know Matt is here somewhere this evening. But we do not do coronations, and we engage in races, and we engage in vigorous debate, and we go at it. And that's politics. That's PEI politics. I had a friend say to me the other day, you live in a small province. It must be not a big deal. And I said, oh, you got it wrong. It's intense. People care. Members of caucus care. So it's not surprising that we're having this vigorous debate. It's okay. It's all right to debate about issues. It's all right to say, I don't agree with you. That's fine. We should be allowed to do that. And then when the puck drops, we go back and we're on the same team. And I've done that before in my life. I've played on teams. I've fought with people, but we always patch it up.
Thank you, Mark. That concludes the questions for this evening, and I would now like to invite Rob to offer his 2-minute closing statement.
Thanks, Robert. What this choice comes down to is leadership and readiness. Islanders deserve a premier who can stand up, answer questions, and be accountable from day one. It's easy to criticize government. It's different to be responsible for it. In just a few weeks, we'll be back in the legislature, and I'm ready to be there to lead. Accountable, present, focused on the future of this province and the people we serve. And I'm ready to represent Prince Edward Island beyond our borders, to work constructively with other premiers as part of Team Canada, to stand up for our province, for our economy, and for the sovereignty and security of our country in an increasingly uncertain world. Leadership's not about one person. It's about the people you surround yourself with. It's about trusting your team, building them up, respecting the work they do, not tearing them down. You can't govern with anger in your heart. Just look south of the border. Whoever wins this race will lead our party in the legislature and will lead our party into the next provincial election. And they'll need a strong, united team around them to do that work. That's how real progress gets made. This is not about the past. It's not about old debates or old divisions. This is about the future of our party and the future of our island. Earning the trust of Islanders means showing up, doing the work, making decisions with clarity, purpose, and a clear sense of responsibility every single day. Thank you very much for being here tonight.
Thank you, Rob. Mark, 2 minutes for your closing statement.
In 1864, right here in Charlottetown, delegates to the Confederation Conference spoke of building a nation and a union that could never be destroyed. That spirit of unity lives in Islanders, in how we show up for one another, in how we work hard, even when it is hard, and how we look out for our neighbors, and never forget who we are and where we came from. It lives in our athletes and our musicians, in our artists, in our innovators, in our farmers who feed us, in the trades who we spoke of, who build for us, in the helping professions who care for us, in our educators, our entrepreneurs, and those who explore what's possible next. PEI isn't just a place in the map, it's a way of life. And it's at the heart of who I am, as a person who wants to lead our party and lead our province. The government I want to lead should be like our people, steady, fair, reliable, and on your side. Our government and its leaders should always stand up for Islanders and always look out for their interests, so that young people can see a future here, so that families know help will be there when they need it, and so that seniors who built this province are respected and cared for. I want to restore hope for Islanders and the belief that if you work hard and care about your community, you can build a good life here. That's the kind of change that honors who we are, respects what we've built, and gives Islanders confidence in what comes next. I'm ready to have your back every single day. This week, I'm asking you to have mine. A vote for me is a vote for change and the promise of a better future. Over these past 10 months, I've been reminded that Islanders are as passionate as I am about our province. They care deeply about what is best and what is right. They want a leader who is open, who is experienced, and who will stand up for them. They want change and they want hope. On Saturday, let's bring it home. Let's bring our party and our province back to the people we serve. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much for being here with us this evening for the final Leadership Candidates Forum. I want to thank our audience at the Charlottetown Confederation Center of the Arts and all those who are watching at home. Thank you everyone behind the scenes as well. This is an exciting time for our party and for the future of our province. Voting is now open and can be done online, by telephone, or in person on the day of the convention. While the deadline for new members to sign up has passed, if you have previously held a membership with our party in the last 4 years, you can do so until the call to order on February 7th to renew your membership. You can do this online at peipc.ca. Join us February 7th at Eastlink Centre in Charlottetown as we select the next leader of the PEIPC party and the next premier of PEI. Safe travels and have a wonderful evening.